Unfortunately, I have to start this video by saying that this is a game guide and everything shown in this video is fictional. This is because YouTube has started to remove my videos, and if you want to watch removed videos you can do that on Odyssey, and I will leave a link to my channel on there in the description. Okay, so for this video we're going to check out how to gain access to a network when there are no ports open. This has been a popular request, but it's quite hard to show because you will most likely need a custom tool in order to get in. And I will still attempt to give you an idea of how it's done, but again, most likely you will need a custom tool to be able to do this by yourself. I found such a network here. It's this one, and if you just open a terminal and we use Nmap, we can see that it says scan finished, no open port. So the network seems apparently completely empty. In a video not too long ago, a couple of episodes ago, I made a tool that is a more advanced Nmapping tool. So let's run that and see what that gives us. If you want to make this, you can follow along with that guide. It gives us a little bit more information. It tells us that there are three things found on the network. All of them end with a 1, which tells us that they are either routers or switches. Most likely. I've seen exceptions to this rule, but so the first one here I think is the main router. It could also be this one. And then there are a third one here, but still we don't really have much to go on. So the main idea when you are getting into a network where there are no ports open is to first gain access to the router, and from the router you can then try to gain access to other computers on the network. So let's try to do that. And you do that, you can for example use my shellweb tool. In the latest version of the game, the shellweb tool is somewhat broken. What you will need to change is you will have to change .content at the end of the script, replace that with getContent because the method name changed, and also the program path, I think, or maybe current path, probably current path, yeah. The current path is no longer used with the computer object. You have to remove the getshell.hostcomputer in front of the host, the program path for the shell web to start working again. I might make a video on that later. So we take the shell web tool and we target port 0, which will help us gain access to the router. And like that, we now have access to the router. To get some more information, we can open a file explorer, and we can drag and drop a few tools. So scanlan is a great tool to get an idea of what the network looks like. We can also grab, I don't think we will need shellweb because it's not good enough for this, but you would also like to grab your custom tool and put that on here, whatever tool you're using. And we can also grab map just to show you that it won't give us any information, or nmap as for that matter, because they're not good enough for this kind of mission. So now we have a few tools, and we can start by trying to nmap. So there are a few LAN IPs we can nmap. The nmap of the first router, okay, let's not start with that. Let's start with the scanlan. This is what the network looks like. So even though nmap told us that it was empty, it's far from empty. and if you click these, we can also see their LAN IPs as well as color coding for their subnets. So the reason we didn't see anything when we nmap was because the main router, this 1.1 that I guessed correctly, is the only one in its subnet. So whenever you try to scan this subnet with nmap, which is from the outside here, we have nmap outside network, we scan the router and it shows us that there is nothing on the subnet because, well, there is nothing on the subnet. But there are things connected to this router, for example, this switch right here and this router down here. This switch has a firewall, so this subnet will be harder to get into. This subnet, however, has a bunch of different devices as well as no firewall, so it's the preferred target. Yeah, so that's what the network looks like, and let's close this for now. We tried nmapping the switch, and it showed us the switch but nothing else. And that's because we're not actually on the switch, we're on the router that then connects to the switch. And the same thing for this router, I don't think it will show us anything. Yeah, it just shows us the router, the sub-router on the network, but then inside of that router's, all the computers connected to that router, we cannot see with a normal nmap tool. If we do our map command, let's see here, it will, like previously, just show us all the devices that can be seen from outside network as well as the router, but nothing else. Don't think this will change if we, yeah, it's not gonna help. There are networks where these normal mapping tools, where nmap and my custom mapping tool could show you some extra stuff. Actually, my custom one should show you a bit more usually, but this network is a bit more tricky, so it won't even show you any of the devices that are connected under the sub router. So like that, you can see we don't actually know much about the network. We can see a few of the IPs here, but if we wanted to use shell web, we would need a port. We could try to gain access to use shell web. We could upload shell web here and try to gain access to one of the routers, sub routers, but this is very slow. It might work, but scanning from inside a router is, as plenty of you probably know, a very slow process and painful, so let's not do that. It's usually not going to help much either, so we're not going to waste time with that. Instead, we are going to start using a custom tool, which you should also be doing if you are trying to complete advanced missions that don't have, because they should be considered advanced missions if they don't have any ports open. It's not the default stuff. So we target the IP that we wanted to get into, which is this one. And we can actually scan to show you that even with an advanced tool, you cannot see anything beyond the normal stuff that was shown with the map command. And again, that's because the stuff is one level deeper within the network. So the advanced mapping command could show you computers that were not port forwarded but still on the main router. in this case they're not even on the main router, they're on a sub router, and then not port forwarded either. So we should try to get into this just like we did with Shell Web, so we already know that that's going to work. Get into this target. Actually, I'm going to do something like that, maybe. So what we're doing is we are gaining access to the router and then uploading our tool, because that's what we are going to be using to gain further access into this network. And we have access. Now we might want to we don't need it, but let's let's scan it first. So now what we can do is we can use a more advanced scanning tool, and this of course will show us a bit more information about the network. As you can see, a lot more actually. We can see that there are a bunch of firewall rules in the, let's see here, in the switch. There are quite a few of them, so we don't want to okay, just looking at it, there are ways inside the switch from inside the if we first gain access to inside the sub router, we can then from one of the computers on there gain access to the switch, and then from there gain access to inside the switch computers. So we don't want to go that route to complete this mission. It's a police record mission, so if we can just gain access to a computer that has the police record program, then we will be able to complete it. So let's just go over the scan results real quick. Again, we have the main router. No, that's not the main router. The switch. And then we have the firewall for the switch, so we can't actually see what's going on inside there. And then we have the main router that we are connected to, and then we have the sub router, and inside the sub router we can now see that there are a bunch of different computers as well as open ports. So that's what we would be targeting. For example, this looks nice, an SSH port. So all we need to do is gain the password and we can get in there. Yeah, so this is what the network looks like. And yeah, you could go ahead and try to get into one of these computers straight away, but I'm going to first start by seeing if I can gain access to the root password on this computer or this router to get root access. So let's do something like I don't know. Yeah, let's just do that. And we don't want to scan from inside the router, so we're going to target the other libraries. And that was not what I tried to do. Maybe I targeted the wrong one. No, I didn't. Yeah, that didn't work. 1, 2, 3. Let's set our own password. That must have worked. There we go. I think I already changed the root password. Yeah, I did. But let's get a root file. Yeah, so we're just gonna go back into here. Oh, I know why it didn't work. I used the I flag. Okay, yeah. Sometimes my tool confuses me. So then we just do force. No. I just checked the password. Maybe my tool is bugged. Seems that way. There we go. And then we need to restart our tool, and maybe nah, that's fine. So there we go. Now that we have root access on the router, we will start to try to get into one of the computers on the subnet. On the sub router. So again, I think the SSH looks good, and you could again use ShellWeb on this SSH. There's no guarantee that it will give you shell, which is what ShellWeb needs. But in order to do that, you would need to know that there is a port 22 on the subnet. You could try, of course, all the different default ports, 80, 22, 21, and see if any of them work. That's a possible solution if you don't have a tool that can show you the ports, because the normal tools, for example scanlan, will not tell you what the ports are, just the LAN IPs. Okay, so we will target one of the computers, and we will just take on all of them. And we found a root computer, which will enable us to read the password file. We will decipher the root password, and we found the password. And what we can do now, I can show this step normally. What you do, or could do, is you could start a file explorer. And then you could grab SSH if you manage to get this far somehow. Again, if you find networks without open ports, I would definitely recommend that you use some kind of custom tool to gain access to that. So now that we have the SSH on here, we could simply do SSH root, the root password, as well as the target LAN, and then the port, which was 22, if you remember up here, port 22 on this computer right here. With that information, we can gain root access on this computer deep within the network. Then, like always, when you gain root shell, you delete logs, and I think all we need to do now is change the record. So let's see if there's a police record. There is. Perfect. And this guy, okay, tax evasion 18 years before it was committed. Do we need to edit this one right here? I don't even remember how you do this. You just edit here, I think. Yeah, so 18, that would be 72, right? And then you save that, I think. Yeah, you did. It tells you that the public areas does not have any open ports. You need to hack the router. So the local network, but it was even harder than that, because you had to first gain access to the router, then this have some kind of tool that could see inside the sub router, and then gain access to that computer. So we changed the record, and let's just exit Nextel and try to reply with done. And the customer is satisfied with the job, so that means that we completed the mission. Yeah, so this is kind of how you get or finish missions that are more advanced, where there are no open ports. Again, this has been a popular request, but it's not very simple to complete if you don't have any custom tools. So the techniques that I've shown, some of them will work with just shell web, but it's certainly not guaranteed. Most likely you will not be able to do it with just shell web. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.